Hi everyone, welcome to my podcast Nepali Tech Mom. My name is Sunita and I'm living in USA from the last 10 years now. I'm born in and raised in Nepal. So profession, I'm a software engineer. This is my first episode with the first guest. This is like a dream come true that my doctor, like Karl Stonecipher, is the one who I did my Lasik last year, and he's the one who is the first guest for my podcast. And I am really satisfied with the work that he had done for me, and I'm very happy for that because the glasses that I have wear is like more than like 20 years I have wear, and now I'm free with the glasses, so I'm very happy for that. And thank you so much, Dr. Call, as well for
For
doing
sure.
that. In the short period of time, Doctor has accepted my invitation. I'm very happy and want to share the experience of Doctor. So welcome, Doctor, and thank you so much for your time.
And
How are
and
you?
thank you for having me as the first guest. That's quite an honor, and I really appreciate being here. Well, my name is Dr. Karl Stonecipher, but please call me Dr. Karl. Stonecipher's long and hard.
Okay.
Primarily, I am a refractive cataract and a refractive surgeon, which basically means I do both cataract surgery and I do refractive surgery. And as a bit of a side note, Dr. Sandukri is a friend of mine through another fellow USA doctor named Dr. Jeff Tabin. And you guys got some amazing people doing amazing work with the Tibetan Eye Project and some other things. Dr. Ron Kruger, another good friend of mine, has been there and done a lot of corneal work in that project as well. So I got to do a shout out for Sanduk and all his staff who do amazing work there in Nepal and allow hundreds of thousands of people to see because of that. My journey really started as a youngster. My mom was a hard worker and worked for several doctors. My dad originally played baseball and then went on as a salesman selling cars. And I really probably got involved in medicine through my mom and my uncle, who was a cardiologist. But through the years, I fell in love with eyes working with a guy named Dr. Jim Rousey. That was a long, long time ago when I was a medical student. My dad was pretty strict, a lot, probably like a people of Nepal. He made me pay for my education and made me work really hard for everything I did because he didn't believe that there was ever a free lunch in life. So in terms of me, I kind of pulled myself up by the bootstraps and was always working to provide money for my education process to get through it. Now my parents also helped me with food and clothes and housing and everything, so don't feel sorry for me in any way, shape, or form. I started off in Oklahoma because that's where I'm from. I did undergraduate work at SMU, which is in Dallas, called Southern Methodist University. Med school is Oklahoma University. Tulane University is where I did my residency. I'm also a clinical professor of ophthalmology at Tulane University now and work with the residents there. I went on to work at the McGee Eye Institute, which is where I learned a lot of my my cornea and refractive surgery. And then I went on to Stanford to get some of the basic ophthalmology. I was at Georgetown for Armed Forces Institute of Pathology. And then my wife said, it's time for you to get a job. And we ended up in the lovely state of North Carolina. So much like Sunita, this is not our homeland, but boy, it's been a nice place to live,
Yeah.
for me for the last, 25 plus years. And
Oh.
going there, I think, I've had the opportunity now to do probably 83,000 plus laser vision corrections and somewhere around 43,000 plus cataract surgeries, plus numerous other types of surgery. So, I've had the blessing of being able to help a lot of people see, much like these other physicians I've talked about in a much more rural environment, but for me in the great state of North Carolina. And, laser vision correction today, as Sunita, as you know, is pretty straightforward and quick.
Yeah.
They have in Nepal options available that they're doing for the severely myopic patients. So I believe that there are other startup centers. I mean, pathology for Nepal and the Nepal people is probably the number one priority for
Yeah.
surgeons that go over there. But I do know a lot of surgeons like Ron Kruger and some others who are reaching out, taking care of refractive error and laser vision correction. Now, maybe they don't have a laser like maybe here, but they have other options like
Yeah.
intraocular contact lenses, which is a new thing that's available and with these newer lens styles, which is really like a contact lens that goes in the eye, they can do a similar procedure to cataract surgery and allow for people to see without their glasses as well. So I think that we're all reaching out all over the
Yeah.
world trying to make people see, but I don't want to. I do stand in the shoulders of giants from the people of Nepal and some of the physicians that do great work there with you as well.
Yeah.
Like I said, I'm very excited to be on this podcast. I know you have a bunch of questions probably running through your head. So why don't you start off with some of those?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, thank you so much for your brief introduction. And yeah, I think you know much more about like the Nepal, like the surgeons as well. So yeah, there is a lot of like a big surgeon, eye surgeons, like a Sandok Rao. Yeah, you took the name, and he's the one who is like doing a really very good job in our country, like the rural areas as well. So yeah, I'm very yeah thankful that you know that. So I'm very happy. So yeah, I have a lot, like not too much of questions like the strict questions, just a general questions. So yeah, so I think you already mentioned everything, like your past, like where you come from, and where you did your university, everything. So I just want to like want to change, like is there like any challenges that you have faced initially when you started?
Absolutely. And I think, everybody faces challenges in their life. And so, if I were to reach out to someone in Nepal and try and touch, someone in terms of hopes and dreams, I think, everybody has options and maybe you'll find yourself, not where you want to be, but you got to figure out how to get there. And so I think, that you start off just by finding friends. And so if you want to get in the medical field, which I did, I started working in clinics and volunteering, and I started working with some of the physicians that my mom worked for. And you'll be surprised. I mean, obviously, it's hard to work for free for long, but maybe when you're starting out, I started out when I was 16 or 17 working in volunteer clinics, and that led really to allow me to know that I really want to be a physician, and that's an important part. Nurses and nursing staff and physician's assistants and a lot of other things are very, very helpful in and out of the operative suite as well as in the hospitals. Everybody gets sick all over the world in terms of one way or another. We all have different problems and different disease processes, but we all need help. And help along the way is really a friend. And I think that if you'll reach out to some of these people, I always say dress well, speak respectfully, in terms of the way in which they do. And the people in Nepal are some of the nicest and most respectful people I know. So I think that's not tough on your end. Reach out to people in other countries. So I have a lot of people that visit me from other countries. Sometimes that's a bit of a challenge in terms of green cards or visas or ways in which to get there in terms of cost. But sometimes you can go locally. Sometimes you can reach out to certain societies that will allow for grants for you to go to different places. One of the places I may be traveling to next year, hopefully, is Armenia. And so we'll be reaching out to the people of Armenia. I'm a quarter Armenian, so that'd be really fun to go back and give back into the country where my grandfather was from, in terms of the
Oh,
big picture. But I
that's
think
good.
that
Yeah.
say I'm also a professor in addition to Tulane University at the University of North Carolina. So
Mhm.
if I'm a student at North Carolina, there are so many opportunities to reach out and go to different countries, whether to work or volunteer or study. So I know that a lot of people from China, for example, have come
Mhm.
here. I've had other doctors from South America who've come here, and
Mhm.
so I think that all over the world, Europe, either countries that are maybe easier traveled than to get here are coming to try and learn new ideas and bring back that prosperity to their
Yeah.
home countries.
Yeah, that's really very yeah thing like a good advice that you have given to the like the viewers and the audience for us, like because many people are like very like shy or very nervous to start with a like with a volunteer, right? There is no any like the money they are paying for the work that they are doing. So yeah, that is good thing that we can do the volunteer first and then do later on and get the experiences first and then just start the journey. Yeah, that's
Right.
really very cool. Yeah, thank you. So yeah, over the years, like I think you have like 35 years experience in this
Yes.
field, right? So it's over the years, like how do you cope with the new technology? There is a like a lot of new technology, right? Evolving
Well,
years by years. So how do you?
I'm lucky. think. I'd rather be lucky than good, I say all the time. For example, I've been in 4 countries and 9 cities in the last 4 weeks. So I have the opportunity to travel and teach and learn. And Seneca basically once said, even while you teach, you can learn.
Yeah.
So I think that, we go to different countries. The latest country I was teaching in was Spain and Barcelona. We were delivering lectures. And so I think for a university student to apply for grants to the European Society for Cataract Refractive Surgery or the Australian Society for Cataract and Refractive Surgery or the American Society for Cataract Refractive Surgery. A lot of these things you can apply for research grants, do research where you are, so you get paid for it. That's how I keep up is these new societies that are popping up. And then, there's such a plethora of stuff available on the web. So
Yeah.
you can go to YouTube and almost Google anything from heart surgery, to eye surgery, to brain surgery. And basically, not that you're going to become a neurosurgeon from watching YouTube, but boy, you can learn a lot in
Yeah.
terms of finding if those are interests of yours. And
Hmm.
then I think in terms of, I'm always listening to something. I mean, whether I don't sit very well. So I'm always listening to something, whether that's art, like today I was listening to a young lady talk about what her top 20 favorites are in the Louvre. Maybe they're not my top 20 favorites, but hey, you got to listen to everybody's opinion. I think at
Hmm.
the same time, you can look at some of the new innovative
Yeah.
technologies that are available, and these are free. So I think the nice thing about a lot of the technology that we don't know about are available to us through some of these channels. Now, certain countries, I understand, China being one, may restrict your access to certain channels of certain things, but
Yeah.
I still think that is a lot is available out there for you to
Hmm.
get a great education, whether that's learning a new language, which
Yeah.
I always can use a new language.
Yeah.
I was trying my Spanish in Spain, which was quite exciting. But I mean, people appreciate the fact that you're at least trying. I
Trying.
think
Yeah.
in terms of, I always tell the funny story. I was in China trying to use my broken Chinese, which is a much more challenging language for someone coming from America. And the young lady who was my sponsor looked at me finally and says, Dr. Stonecipher, I know you're really trying, but you've offended so many people in so many ways. Just let me talk for you. And I was like, okay, from now on, that's you. But I think that,
Yeah.
technology for us changes daily. I would
Yeah.
like to
Daily.
say
Yeah.
weekly and I would
Hmm.
like to say monthly, but everything we get something new, and there's no way to encompass all of that technology in one brain. But
Hmm.
Chat GPT and
Yeah.
a lot of new uh, uh,
AI
things such as
tools.
AI
Yeah.
that
Hmm.
help us, maybe digest certain things. So maybe you're trying to figure out, okay, what's my best lens to choose from for intraocular lens surgery? Well, my good friend Shannon Wong just put out a video on that on YouTube, and I think that's helpful to a lot of my patients. I'm not very egocentric, so if I want you to learn something about the Evo ICL, which is like this intraocular contact lens we were talking about earlier, I'll
Hmm.
tell you, go talk, hear about the technology from Scott Barnes, who is the chief medical officer. He's got great YouTube channels and online information. So I think whether you're trying to study physics or engineering, or you're
Hmm.
trying to study art or literature, or you're trying to you look at the latest greatest refractive surgery, definitely start online and Google is your friend. I mean,
Yeah.
obviously, AI can hallucinate and give you misinformation, but I think for the most part, you guys, we can figure it out along the way. And I think phoning a friend,
Yeah.
people are always open to helping. So I'm not as great on email as I'd like to be. I can probably get about 200 or 300 of those a day, and probably
Hmm.
about 60 or 70 text messages a day. So it's a challenge to get through everything. But
Hmm.
we do ultimately we work it out.
Yeah. Yeah. That's good. Yeah. Of course, yeah. We need to like, yeah. There is a lot of like AI tool is coming here. Like ChatGPT is the latest one. Yeah, everybody is in the ChatGPT right now, right?
Oh,
Everybody
for
has
sure.
like, yeah. They
And we're
they
doing
they
we're
work
using
like sometimes like, uh, sometimes it's like a very good to everyone, but there is a everything has a pros and cons, right? So yeah, it has like a good things and the bad things as well. So
Well, it's
yeah.
like we're using artificial intelligence in the dry
Hmm.
eye world. So
Yeah.
people with bad dry eye disease, a lot of times we can't figure out maybe
Hmm.
their underlying causes. Now, maybe
Yeah.
we know that it's an evaporative dry eye, or it's a
Hmm.
mixed mechanism dry eye, or
Yeah.
it's a, lack of fluid or water, which we call aqueous deficient dry eye. But
Mm-hmm.
what AI may help us with is find some of what I call the co-conspirators. So maybe
Mm-hmm.
it's a medication, or maybe it's a disease process, or maybe it's an environmental exposure, that the artificial intelligence helps us, fine tune what in fact we're missing in this person's, disease process, to try and find a way to make them happy and whole again. And I think that, whether that's your diet,
Mm-hmm.
or whether that's your medications you're on, or whether that's changing your environment, all these things are very beneficial, whether it's in the eye world, or where it's you're trying to live longer,
Yeah.
or trying to take care of someone who does have another problem. I believe very strongly in medicine. We need to be preventive.
Yeah.
I don't want to treat your diabetes. I want to figure out how you don't get it at all. I don't want to, treat your cataracts. I'm good at it. I like it. That's how I make my profit. But
Mm-hmm.
now I'm working with a group out of Israel to try and prevent cataracts. So we're trying to do things that we can do in terms of prevention of cataract and blindness related to that. And the
Mm-hmm.
same thing goes, I don't want you to have heart disease if I can somehow prevent that. So if
Yeah.
your mom and your dad died from some sort of heart ailment, whether that's a heart attack
Heart
or
attack.
whether
Yeah.
they had a stroke or something
Yeah.
of that nature, then boy, I want to look at you with the fine tooth comb and say, hey, maybe we change this in your diet, or maybe we change this in your exercise regimen, and then you can go on to be a better
Yeah.
person through nutrition or environment.
So yeah, this is because of like the heredity as well, right? It happens
Yes,
to the children. Both the parents have like the high blood pressure. Maybe in the future, the children has had some high pressure as well. So
exactly.
yeah, so to prevent that, we can have some like a diet a control. Anything we can do it that will help a lot, right?
Yeah, and I think you guys in Nepal have some crazy healthy diets. I mean, you've got a
Hmm.
lot of minerals from
Yeah.
the water that are very healthy. I think
Hmm.
that, everybody in Nepal walks somewhere, and I think
Yeah.
more of the Americans used to do that. And if we look
Hmm.
at, there's a great, it's on Netflix, and a
Hmm.
series called The Blue Zone. There's also a book available, and it's also on YouTube. He talks about the
Sorry,
blue zone.
which?
Blue, the color blue,
Uh-huh.
Blue zone, Zone. And
Uh-huh.
so what they've taken is six regions across the world and
Hmm.
try to figure out, why do they have more individuals that live over the age of 100 years?
Hmm.
And so almost every
Yeah.
one of these zones, people
Hmm.
spend a lot of time walking.
Wow.
So example, one of the villages, people walk to work, they walk home, they walk to
Hmm.
church, they walk
Yeah.
home, they walk to eat, dinner, that walk home. And so
Okay.
everything's walking, or,
Hmm.
they're riding their bikes everywhere, as opposed
Hmm.
to us, Americans, who may jump in our car,
Yeah.
eat on the run. We don't take
Hmm.
the time to sit and talk to people like we should. And I think it's so important to interact. I think if I
Yeah.
talk to a young person today and say, the number one thing that young people are missing out on is their cell phone. Get
Yeah.
off your cell phone. Talk to the
Yeah.
person across from you.
Hmm.
Spend time on it. I think cell phones are like computers. I think they can be great
Hmm.
devices to learn, but I think they can be great hindrances for us to communicate. And
Hmm.
that's kind of a sad statement, but it's a true statement that, I'll see many of our teenagers sitting around on their cell phones at the same table. They're not
Yeah.
talking to each other.
They are in the same group eating like in a dinner time or the lunch time. They are sitting together, but they have their phone like everywhere. Like anybody is looking their own phone. So
Yeah,
that
and
is.
I'll ask my daughter. She's older now, but I would ask her when she was younger as a
Uh,
teenager.
uh-huh.
I'd say, "What do you text? Are you texting the person across from you that your hair isn't straight, or who are you texting instead of talking to the people that you're
Yeah.
sitting with?" I was just with Bill Trattler, another a favorite friend of mine,
Hmm.
in Las Vegas for a meeting we were doing last Saturday, and
Uh-huh.
I was reminding him of a time where we were at the W in
Yeah.
Miami, Florida, and we're looking around and we're looking at the pool, and I said, Bill, what is wrong with this picture? And he says, I don't understand, Carl. What are you trying to say? And I said, look who's in the pool. And the only people that were in the pool were the adults. All the kids were not in the pool. They were either on a tablet or on their cell phone outside the pool doing something else, playing a game or something. And I'm saying, life is too short. Live when the
Yeah.
moments. Go visit your grandparents. Talk to your mom and dad if you don't live at home anymore. Talk to them if you do live at home. Now, the quote
Yeah,
that I always
it is a
say,
very needed. Yeah, this is very needed to now. Yeah,
yeah,
nowadays the small kids are like 5 years old kids. They need like the tablet and the mobile. I don't know for eating the dinner as well. So it's really very difficult for them also because I have two kids.
Yes.
because they need a TV when they need to have a dinner or the lunch. I
Yeah.
don't know.
But
Screen time
my
is really very dangerous.
Yeah, but my mom, I can still remember. I was what I call a latchkey kid. While she worked till 5, I'd get
Hmm.
home around 3, and she made me stay home from 3 to 5
Hmm.
because you don't know what can happen in the neighborhood. But at
Yeah.
5 o'clock, she kicked me out, and she said, "When I call you for dinner, which was usually around 6 or 7 o'clock, you better be back quick." And so you're always in a earshot of your mom, and so I
Hmm.
think getting outside, getting dirty, playing in the dirt, whether it's in your
Yeah.
backyard or whether it's
Hmm.
up the street at your friend's house. I think that's important. You
That's
know,
important. Yeah.
information that we share. I was trying to quote earlier Mark
Hmm.
Twain, and
Yeah.
and my favorite quote is when I was a boy of 14.
Hmm.
My father was so ignorant I could hardly stand to be around him. By the
Oh.
time I turned 21, I was amazed at how much he had learned in 7 years.
Hmm.
So you cannot, and the Nepali people know this more than anybody, I think. They
Hmm.
spend so much time with their grandparents.
Yeah.
And I, and
Hmm.
I, I think that time is so well spent. When I was a kid, I spent as much time I could with my grandfather. My grandmother had passed, both my grandmothers had passed away by the time I was old enough. And my one grandfather from Armenia lived in California when I lived in Oklahoma. But my local grandparent, boy, we ran everywhere. And I tell you, they're just like textbooks. So
Yeah, they can.
I,
Yeah, they can give us like more than the textbook, like because of their experiences, their life. They can
sure.
share everything like they have in their mind and everything. They want to
And one of the things that we did, God, this had to be now, my daughter's in her 20s. So this was probably at least 10 years ago.
Mhm,
And so we had her sit down with my mother, who's
mhm,
still living. She's 93, and my aunt, who just passed away at 98.
mhm,
And she was saying Megan was like 10 years old ish. And she basically asked them the questions that you and I may not know the answers to, but tell us about your mom and dad,
mhm,
and we didn't know our great grandparents because my grandfather's family lived in Armenia, and he moved away when he was young, never to go back. My grandmother lived in Hungary, and she
mhm,
moved away long when she was young. Both of her parents were killed in a carriage accident, so we didn't really know about that side of the family. But I had Megan go back and say, funny things like, "Tell me about your brothers and your sisters. What do you
mhm,
remember? Funny stories. Tell us about what it was like. You can remember about your mother because I didn't know my grandmother, so it was really a pleasant surprise. We found that treasure chest, on one of my computers, and I'm
mhm.
sharing that with my family members now, even though it was done, 10 plus years ago.
Wow.
We still appreciate the fact that you
Yeah.
can hear their voices because they may be
Mhm,
gone, but at the
mhm.
same time, your kids can learn about your grandparents
Yeah.
or your great
Hmm.
grandparents.
Yeah. So how many kids you have? Like.
I have two. I have a son who's in Dallas. He does creative computation. Works a lot with China. He just sold that company, is moving on to a different adventure. I have a daughter
Mhm,
who is a psychologist who has got a master's in psychology, and she works with troubled teens, pregnant teens, and runs
oh.
a home called My Sister Susan's Home, where she
Mhm,
takes care of pregnant teens who really have nowhere to go. So she's helping them to learn how to raise kids, and she's teaching them how to learn how to get a job or
mhm.
acquire food and cook it because these are kids who are having kids basically.
Yeah.
But I think in terms of these two, what I teach them every day is listen to what we say. You may
Mhm,
not agree with it now, but at least listen to what your parents say.
mhm.
In terms of 7 years from now, it may be brilliant to you.
Yeah, yeah. So yeah, I think I need some like a parenting tips or the tricks also from you because I'm in the phase like I'm very very like I have like five like a 7 years old daughter
Uh-huh.
older. The other is also the daughter, but she will be 4 in the January. So in this phase, I am like, oh my God, how to explain like they are not listening right now. So it's really
Well,
very.
and I think I just operated on my niece
Mhm,
Lorena, and basically she brought her 3-year-old, and
mhm.
the 3-year-old, I had not been around a 3-year-old in quite some time, and 3-year-olds
Yeah.
are a terror, a storm. They're just going in so many different directions, and
Mm-hmm.
we basically with my nephew ended up having to take care of the son
Uh-huh.
because we're leaving mom alone. So, just to go back to the laser vision question for a minute, I said, go home. So she had, you'd had your LASIK or laser vision correction. I said, now you get to go home and go to bed, and the kids have got to go and be taken care of by somebody else. So mom gets to sleep all night. So we let Lorena, sleep and gave her a breath of fresh air from the
Mhm.
3 year old. But, we took the 3 year old like to the science center, and I had been in the science center forever. So,
Yeah.
spending time with kids, you don't have to go on vacation to
Yeah.
Disney World.
Yes.
They'd be just as happy in a pool at the Holiday Inn
Yeah.
Express up the street with you
So
as opposed to traveling across the world to spend time.
yeah, that is good. Yeah, that is cool because 3 years old they don't just want to go to the park. They enjoy a lot. Like that is the age like see like they are enjoying every second, and yeah, that is really very precious time for us to.
Well, and speaking of the park, you're going to come home tired. I get
Yeah.
it. I mean, you
Mm-hmm.
work hard, I work hard,
Mm-hmm.
everybody works hard, and I value sleep. So, we shut the house down. So, my point is, my wife and I, with our kids gone, still watch some TV late at night, but it's limited amount of time.
Mm-hmm.
If we have kids in the house, we try and shut the house down by 9 o'clock, because if
Mm-hmm.
you've got a 3 or 4 year old in the house and all they can
Mm-hmm.
hear is a loud TV
Yeah.
downstairs, they're going to keep coming back downstairs to see
Yeah.
what
Of
mom
course.
or dad or mom and dad are doing. And so
Mm-hmm.
the noise is going to be distractor. So we've always been very valuable about kids getting sleep. When I'm tired coming home from work, my wife, and my mom too would say, get out there and go play with your kids, and we had a trampoline in the backyard. And I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
oh dear goodness, I don't want to go get on the darn trampoline. I just want to go sit and gel in the chair. And
Mm-hmm.
after you spent time jumping on the trampoline, you're revived, you're reinnervated,
Yeah.
and regenerated, and so you basically, need to do things with your
Mm-hmm.
family and
Mm-hmm.
your kids. And I think that it doesn't have to be something expensive. We don't have to
Yeah.
go spend money to have fun, because they can play in the dirt and have just as much fun as if you
Mm-hmm.
go spend, $12 to go sit in a movie theater and watch a movie
Yeah.
or something. At this age is a waste of time. And whether it's them playing, I coached little league uh, baseball, and I coached little league
Oh,
soccer, and
wow.
I was probably a terrible coach. I mean,
Okay, I think so.
I showed up.
Your
you
interest
know,
is in baseball. So you play a baseball more.
Well, my dad was a baseball player, so he signed for the New York Yankees years ago and played
Okay.
college baseball, and they won the
Mm-hmm.
World Series. But I was really nearsighted. I mean, that's kind of a cute story on myself. I
Mm-hmm.
needed glasses, and nobody picked up on that. I just sat
Oh.
at the front of the class, and it wasn't until I was about 12 years old, one of my coaches went to my dad, and he was being honest, and he looked at my
Oh.
father and he said, I got to tell you, Carl is one of the worst baseball players or football players I have on my team. And my dad, well, thanks, Bill, for letting me know that. And
Mm-hmm.
my mom hears that, and my mom was like, no, there's something wrong with my son. He can't be bad. So we went around until they found out I was a -5 and I needed glasses, so
Oh.
I
Oh
couldn't
my
see. So I
God.
was just walking around in my own little world, and I didn't know any better. And nobody, I was a quiet kid, and finally
Mm-hmm.
got my glasses. And once I got my glasses, I could catch the football. And the coach was like, he's pretty good now that he can see. So I
Oh.
think that, we miss out on things. So
Yeah.
don't feel like you're the only one that walked around in the dark for a long time. A lot of us
Mm-hmm.
did. I love Marguerite McDonald tells a similar
Uh-huh.
story on her. She
Uh-huh.
thought she was running across a parking lot and ran across a pond. And her mom was like, "What are you doing?" She goes, "I didn't see the pond." And they finally
Yeah.
realized, well, the that my daughter has an issue. So I think that
Yeah.
not all of us start out even in life, but we all pretty much end up
In the
in the
same,
same
yeah,
place.
page, yeah, the same story for goes to me as well, because in the school when we are in the classroom I didn't see anything in the class like a grade 8. My mother doesn't know that, and I usually sit in the like we have like a rotation on the chair like a table. We need to like every day we have a rotation. When I am in the back of the of the classroom I cannot see anything. I have to see in the like a friends writing there, and then my teacher like know about these things and they tell to my parents, and then we go to the doctors and go check up for it. So it's like yeah.
And thank goodness for that. I mean, even now,
Mhm.
for example, in China
Uh-huh.
and probably Nepal as well, we're
Mhm.
checking visions a lot earlier in kids and trying to
Yeah.
see if they need glasses. For China,
Mhm.
the biggest thing is myopia management. That's a new, exciting thing. So the Chinese and the Asian population are very prone to nearsightedness. So we're doing a lot of
Mhm.
preventive things, such as a lot of the classrooms, where little Johnny was not told to look out the window. They're now said take a break and look out the window to break up what's called your accommodative spasm. So you don't develop, like we were talking about prevention earlier, so you
Mm-hmm.
don't develop severe nearsightedness and need some of these interventions later. It's nice to have them, but if we
Yeah.
could figure out how to stop us from getting them, whether that's a genetic
Mm-hmm.
way in terms of genetic treatments, or whether that's another way in which, in terms of trying to prevent heart disease or diabetes,
Yeah.
in terms of diet or health factors, I think is important.
Yeah, yeah, that is really very, yeah. Prevention is better than cure. Yeah, of
Yes.
course. Yeah, we need to have some prevention so that we cannot do like in the later we can ask. So yeah, thank you so much for sharing all these things. Like the stories is really very fun, and I also share some stories. Yeah, that is really very fun to my audience. Maybe they can enjoy like hearing that. Okay, and so I think you already mentioned like for the like what did you do for the work life balance? You have any like the
Oh
trick?
gosh, that's a
Oh my
huge
God,
subject you ought to talk
it's
about.
really
So
very
my
used
work-life
one.
balance is I love to water ski. I play golf. I don't try and perfect myself at any of those. I try to be a perfect surgeon. So my surgical skills are probably what I work on the most. But
Mm-hmm.
I'm outdoors a lot. I ride a bicycle. I ride
Okay.
motorcycles too, but probably not as much as I like riding a bike or just getting outside and doing different things.
Mm-hmm.
In the winter, I love to snow ski.
Uh-huh.
But I think that you got to find something and don't feel like you got to be great at it. Just
Mm-hmm.
do it. I mean, it
Yeah.
doesn't matter whether, maybe you weren't supposed to skateboard, so don't go out and break your arm on the skateboard. But I'm saying
Yeah.
at the same time, I don't snowboard for that reason. I have several of my ophthalmologic friends who have broken wrists and shoulders
Mm-hmm.
trying to snowboard. And I'm like, maybe that's not a sport for me as an ophthalmologist. So pick something that's not going to be injury prone. I
Injury.
work
Yeah.
out a lot. I do a lot of meditation. I do a lot of yoga, and I think
Mm-hmm.
those are simple things. You don't have to join a gym to meditate
Yeah.
or do yoga. You can sit on the floor and find a little 8 by 8 space or 5 by 5 space and accomplish a lot in that little amount of space. So I think that for me, meditation and yoga are really big health life balances. So if I'm having a bad moment and something's not working out, I just got to find my spot and just reconnect with myself and breathe in. And I think those are very good, important
Yeah.
points. But at the same time, I try to eat healthy.
Mm-hmm.
I don't always win that war. I do like fried foods and the unhealthy stuff, but I try and look out for it and try and keep myself healthy. And at some point in time, you look up and you say, okay, what is going to kill me? I mean, in
Mm-hmm.
terms of real life situations. So, what did my grandfather die from, or what did my father die from, or what
Yeah.
did my mother die from? And
Mm-hmm.
start goal directing towards that, because I think genetics makes a big difference. And we can even live in one of these, 6 or 7 cities we call the blue zone and have all
Mm-hmm.
the great genes in the world. But if we walk in front of a truck tomorrow, it doesn't help a whole lot on your livelihood. So I think in terms of we're all have a mortality level of something, but boy, we can try and do the best we can to keep us alive and take care of this body that we got to take us through life.
Yeah, I think yeah, that is good thing. Yeah, the meditation, the yoga helps in the mental like stress also, right? You have a lot of work in the stress with the work, so that really helps us with when we do the yoga or the meditation or let's go to the like the physical activities or
Right.
exercise. Yeah, it really very make our body like metabolism is really very good, and
Well, and
we
I tell
can
people you don't have to join a gym. I
yeah
mean, just walk. I
walk.
mean, even
Yeah.
I have never. My sister in law is a phenomenal runner. Probably runs 3 to 5 miles a day or
Oh
more,
my
and
God.
and she's done that all her life, and that's her way to de-stress. I'm too bored running. I just might get in
Mhm.
my head. So I'd rather sit on the floor and in my meditation, get my monkey mind and try and get out of it.
Mhm.
But I think at the same time, in terms of the big picture, you don't have to have access to a gym or
Yeah,
weights or a treadmill or something. You can go do all this stuff simply. And I think walking around the block is much better than walking on a
correct.
treadmill like a lab rat.
Yeah, of course. Working in the fresh air also
Yes.
that makes our like the body and the like the mind really very fresh. Doing in the like the treadmill inside, listening to the music every time, like everything is like yeah, you can listen to the music and do everything what you want. You can do it. Yeah.
And I think sometimes we just forget to listen to nature. You know,
Yeah, we need
it's
to.
there's a
Yeah,
lot
we
of
need
cool
to.
stuff out
Yes,
there to
listen
listen
to the
to.
nature.
Now, maybe not in New York City. I was just in
Yeah.
there. The average
Uh-huh.
decibel level is somewhere between
Yeah.
90 and 95. It's just
Mm-hmm.
such a loud city. But at the same time, if you just kind of walk around, there was a great movie called August Rush,
Uh-huh.
August, last name Rush, and it was about a kid who
Uh-huh.
had gotten lost from his adopted parents, and he
Yeah, I think I
basically
need to.
he basically learns about all the sights and sounds of the city,
Mm-hmm.
and ultimately writes a symphony based on the sights and sound of the city.
Yeah.
It was a great movie and makes you kind of think about, now and then I just need to kind of sit back and listen. And that goes with people too. I mean, every
Mm-hmm.
now and then you just got to kind of shut up and listen, because you learn a lot more, I think, listening than talking, for sure.
Listening and yeah, of course, yeah. Yeah, that is really very good. So yeah, I think yeah, I don't have right much question, but yeah, just want to ask some question that I have in my mind after doing my LASIK, right? So
Hmm.
most of the people, I want to share this story to the people who wants to do the LASIK, like
Yes.
me, because a
Yes.
lot of people is still in the spec classes. They don't want to wear it, but they don't know about the LASIK, right? How to do
Right.
it here in anywhere, like in the US, not only the US, everywhere they can do it. Just want to like, is there any age factor for doing the LASIK?
Well, I think the biggest thing is McDonald, my good friend I was just with, said it best. I think, when we get 16 in the United States, we're able to drive. When we get 18, we're able to vote. When we be 21, we're able to drink. And that's about the same time we're adults, and we can probably say our eyes have stopped changing. Now, are there always exceptions to that rule? Absolutely. I've had 18-year-olds who are trying to get Major League Baseball contracts, and the vision was getting in their way. So we did laser vision correction. Hockey players the same way, race car drivers the same way. So I've operated on a lot of people at younger ages because that interferes with their activity. But I
Mm-hmm.
think realistically, if you're looking at laser vision correction or some sort of intervention, it's probably around the age of 2021 where your vision finally will stabilize enough to
Stable.
where you can say, I can go get laser vision correction. Now, it depends in different parts of the world, and I briefly touched on this. So if you can't get LASIK, which is kind of the number one thing I probably do, which is making a flap. So we make a flap with the laser. We lay that flap back out of the way, and then we laser the surface to recontour, to change the shape, so that we can get rid of your nearsightedness or your farsightedness, your astigmatism, which are simple refractive errors for which we need glasses. If you can't get those because lasers aren't available, the intraocular contact lens is becoming more available across the world in countries, and anywhere we basically can do cataract surgery. We can do intraocular contact lenses as far as access goes. So a lot of people in China are getting intraocular contact lenses because they don't maybe have access to a laser facility, but they do a cataract facility. Another intervention is called SMILE, where they're making changes in the surface of the cornea. Again, it's a femtosecond laser, which is 10 to the minus 15th of a second, a very fast laser system, which can allow us to remove what's called a lenticule, so just a piece of the cornea out of the center. I think they all have their pluses and minuses, and I don't ever denigrate, any type of surgery in the right person's hand and in the right person's anatomy. I think it's a life changing
Yeah.
process. I saw a young lady yesterday who we'll have the opportunity to work on, who's a minus 28, probably, you
Oh my
know,
God.
8 times, 7 times as nearsightedness as you were
Yeah.
when we started the process. In terms of today, I operated on a young lady that was originally from Cuba, who is now seeing. She's like without glasses 20/40, which is good enough to drive a car, where
Yeah.
before she couldn't even see the hand in front of her face because she was a minus 26.
Oh my
So I
God.
think that, we have all sorts of nuances, and trying to make people see is one of them. And boy, when you see that smile on somebody's face where they haven't been able to see their toes in the shower, something simple, and they can see
Yeah.
now, you're kind of like Santa Claus, and it's birthday time, all over again.
Yeah, yeah, that is good. Yeah, I feel the same thing. Yeah, when I have like my LASIK, yeah, I feel the same thing.
But it's
So,
very rare from anatomy standpoint, from a health standpoint, from a your eye perspective, that we can't offer something.
yeah.
There always seems that, small percentage of the population that can't have it. for whatever reason. But boy, that population is getting smaller and smaller because the tools in our toolbox are getting larger and larger. I mean, we're getting more and more of them to choose from to try and fix, whether it's nearsightedness or farsightedness or astigmatism, or whether it's reading and reading glasses for adults.
Yeah. Yes. So yeah, there will be always, like you said, like there is a pros and the cons for the LASIK.
Yes.
So yeah, because some of the people who have like the interest like doing that, they can't do it because of some like their eyes is not take that LASIK, right? There
Yeah,
is
so
some.
thick enough is one. Some people have what are called ectasias, like keratoconus or pellucid marginal degeneration, but there's other things that we're doing. My good friend from Norway and my other good friend from Athens are doing a lot of things with keratoconics in terms of trying to work on them.
Mhm,
John Kananopoulos from Greece and Alexander Stevanovic from Norway are basically changing the shape of people's corneas and stabilizing their corneas with what is called cross-linking.
mhm,
So I think that disease pathology is limiting some things. But boy, even in Nepal, like I said, my good friend who's now the director of the University of Ophthalmology in Nebraska is basically, it's called the Trulson Center, is basically changing the lives of people with corneal scars or other things related to that in Nepal.
mhm.
So I think we can all make the world go around when we just try and share our ideas and our thoughts and share our talents and our time too.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah. So, is there any complication you faced while doing the LASIK? Any like the big complication, like anything?
The biggest complication I think is blindness. Have I ever had that in 83,000 cases plus? No. The biggest next complication would be infection. I haven't had that
Mhm,
either with cataract surgery or with LASIK. I mean, we do a lot of things to prevent that. But for example, in Nepal, one of the problems was endophthalmitis, cataract surgery infection, which we call endophthalmitis. And so what they ended up having to do to change things, Dr. Reed was basically able to bring people in house and keep them there. So do both
mhm,
eyes, keep them in house for 5 to 7 days, treat them, take care of them, put their drops in for them, make sure they got their drops, those sort of things in terms of access and demand and supply, and so that limits the number of people we can treat. But at the
mhm,
same time, it reduces the complications. And right now we're doing a lot of things with artificial intelligence. So we're trying to, like, for example, with you,
mhm.
out of COVID, one of the things we were able to do was do a lot more telemedicine. So,
Telemedicine.
we're doing your surgery, you're seeing you obviously before surgery to make sure you're a candidate. We're doing your surgery, seeing you the day after surgery to make sure there are no complications related to the surgery, whether that's a flap that is moved or whether that's an intraocular lens, which isn't where we want it to be, or a pressure that's high or something of that nature. And then we can do telemedicine. I can call you up and say, hey Sunita, what are you doing? And you're like, I'm doing awesome. I haven't seen this good in my entire life without my glasses. I went and played with my kids and watched them at little league soccer or whatever you do, and then see again I'm sorry, artificial no, I'm sorry, telemedicine at 1 month, and then maybe see you one more time down the road just to make sure everything's solid. We do touch up people. We call that an enhancement.
Mhm,
That's in 0.29% for me. So
mhm,
less than 1% of the population may come back because they're not quite where they want to be because they healed,
mhm,
or we may have missed the mark a little bit with regard, say, to treating their astigmatism fully, or something of that nature. Or maybe they have a side effect like a glare or a halo or something that's amenable to more treatment, whether that's changing a lens or changing the cornea a little bit more. I think that in this day and age, it's rare that we have complications in eye surgery. I can't say that there's zero.
mhm,
Unfortunately, we still have a lot of diseases that we haven't figured out, like
mhm.
diabetes or
Diabetes.
age-related
Yeah.
macular degeneration or age-related changes. And
Mhm,
I think those are all over the world, and that can be whether you're in Nepal and sun exposure. I mean, I strongly encourage you, if you're out in the sun, especially as high up on the mountain as you guys are, to wear your sunglasses and your protective UV wear your sunscreen to protect your skin, and those sorts of things I think are amazing.
yeah. So yeah, that is yeah a good thing that I know about. Like after the LASIK, we need to take care of our eyes with the sun mainly, right? Without
Yes.
direct sun, we cannot face the direct sun. After the LASIK, they may harm to. the person. They cannot like see directly. So yeah. So what is about like after LASIK we need to do like that, as you say, like a telemedicine. That is also the good idea. Like check up every year after the LASIK, or we need to do in person. Every
So I
year
think,
we need to do that. Is it
if
like
we
compulsory? We need to do
right,
it.
if we look at that from a standpoint, sorry, you were breaking up. I didn't mean to interrupt. But
Okay.
from the standpoint of eyes, okay. So if I've done surgery and I've seen you in that perioperative period, which we're going to say is 90 days or 3 months, whether that's cataract surgery or LASIK, we've
Mhm,
done a lot of studies to show that really after about 2 to 4 weeks, you're going to be pretty solid, whether that's
mhm,
your laser vision correction or your cataract surgery. Now, don't get me wrong. There's some other things like a YAG laser capsulotomy and cataract surgery, or some other things that may pop up down the road in terms of late regression. But for the large majority, the lion's share of people that we will see postoperatively after about 90 days, they're pretty good. I strongly encourage people to use tears for the first year with LASIK. I think that, I've disrupted your architecture. The same thing goes for cataract surgery as well. Even my tiny incisions can disrupt the architecture of the nerves that supply the cornea and say, hey, my eyes dry, make tears. But I think for the most part, sunglasses are just like sunscreen. So
mhm,
sunglasses for everybody. The sun is your friend, but it can also be your enemy with
mhm.
regard to skin damage and ocular damage, and especially at altitudes of Nepal,
Yeah.
and basically at sea level as well. I think in terms of a routine eye care, we usually ask you to come back about every 2 years, unless you're at a high risk category. So if
Mhm,
you're diabetic or you're a child of a family who has age-related macular degeneration, maybe we're not going to look for your age-related macular degeneration when you're 21, but we're definitely going to look at it when you're 51 or 61, because there's a lot of preventive medicine that we can do, whether that's simply diet. At Tulane, we showed diet was a big issue
mhm.
in terms of certain vitamins help with age-related changes in the eye. So I think that, the bottom line is there are a lot of opportunities we have for prevention. But at the same time, if you've had an intervention, don't give up on us. Come back and see us. I think it's important.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yes, yeah, that helps a lot. Yeah, we use basically for the irritation, like the dry eyes after LASIK, we use the drops, right?
Yeah,
The
artificial tears,
yeah,
exactly.
artificial
And then,
tears.
of
Yeah.
course, the therapeutic tears are usually for about 2 weeks with LASIK and for about a month with cataract surgery.
Okay. Yeah, that helps a lot. Yeah. Okay, I think you already mentioned like sorry, you already mentioned after like the work profession you go to what are other interests you have. You already mentioned
Well,
that, right?
I spend a lot of time working. I'm
Yeah.
sorry to say that. So when I am
Yeah.
when I'm at home and I'm working,
Mhm.
I probably work a good 12 hours in a day, sometimes 14 or more.
Mhm.
Whether that's writing papers or whether that's I'm now trying to write a book. So
Oh.
I try to do different things just to stress me out, just
Uh-huh.
to try and make me always think. But I think at
Okay.
the same time, I think that a work play balance is important. So I
Yeah.
love music. We're going to go see Post Malone
Mm-hmm.
next weekend. I'm really excited about that. My daughter is going to see Taylor Swift. The tickets were too expensive, so I got my wife and my daughter a ticket and said, "You guys go to see Taylor Swift." I've seen her before a long, long time ago, and she's really good. But boy, she's expensive now in terms of the ticket prices. But I
Yeah.
really enjoy, whether that's golf. That I may not get to play 18 holes, but I'll go like last night and play 3 holes just to get outside and smell the trees and the
Mm-hmm.
flowers. But at the same time, I think a good, healthy work life balance is important.
Yeah.
And I think that if we're good at something, be good at it and do it well.
Mm-hmm.
Pay attention to it, focus on it. Always try and keep honing your skills, which I do. I can always learn something from you. I
Yeah.
can always learn something from anybody in a room sitting
Mhm.
across from me.
Yeah.
I think that you just got to listen. We
Yeah.
all stick our earbuds. I do the same thing. When I'm on the airplane, the minute that I probably stick my earbuds in, I want to take a nap or I want to watch a movie or, I just want to decongest or but a lot of times if I'm flying international, I just sleep to try and catch up on sleep. But
Yeah.
I think for the most part, every now and then, we got to just sit back, listen, and then just healthy work life balance is probably the best
Mm-hmm.
advice I can tell you. Spend time with your kids, spend time with your parents. If you can't spend time with them, you can phone them, you can Zoom them, you can FaceTime them. And I think that's, second best, but still it's reaching out.
Yeah. Every day we are learning, right? New things.
You
Never
know,
stop learning.
I tell my mom, she reads her Bible a lot and she's very faithful. And I think that, she spends a lot of time in Bible study, but I make sure that, she's trying to get out, that she lives in a place where she's got friends and they go to eat every day together and they uh, uh,
Share
play
the.
whatever together, every day. So I think that you got to have human contact,
Yeah.
so if you live alone, figure out a way to get human contact because you
Mm-hmm.
can only spend so much time with yourself before you go crazy. And
Mm-hmm.
I think that you really you want to get out there and whether that's listening to music, whether
Mm-hmm.
that's looking at art or making
Yeah.
art or somebody always needs something. And so I think
Yeah.
that even if you go visit the hospitals or you go visit the guy up the street who you don't think has a friend, I try and visit my friends in the neighborhood when I can and spend time with them. And it's nice not to be
Yeah.
around doctors or medicine all the time. So
Mm-hmm.
go
Yeah.
find somebody that does completely something different than you
Different. Mm-hmm.
and spend time with them.
Yeah, that is also the good like motivation. Yeah, for the people who are listening to my podcast, that is the best like thing.
And
So
if you one last thing, if you can't afford to go to a baseball game or you
yeah.
can't afford to go to the concert,
Mm-hmm.
go find somebody playing baseball. You can go watch Little
Mm-hmm.
League and have just as much fun
Yeah.
screaming at that. It's like I was telling you about the 3-year-old
Mm-hmm.
we turned on. He wanted to see Monster Truck, and I'm not a big Monster Truck person. That was
Yeah.
what he wanted to see. And we sat and yelled at the TV. And my wife comes in and goes, "What is wrong with you?" And I said, "We're just yelling at the TV. We're having fun." And she's like, "I don't even know who the kid is here." So, I mean, even if you're screaming with the 3-year-old, he's having fun. You're having fun. Figure
Yeah.
it out.
Yeah, yeah. The communication is more than like sitting like alone, right? When we
Yes.
communicate, we have like a lot of like things coming out from the small people. Also, we learn a lot. Like small kids, also they have a lot of things to ask, and we don't know anything, so we need to learn. Like we need to
Yes.
know to give them the answers. So yeah, everything like is learning thing is never stops. Yeah.
Totally agree. And animals are a big thing. So I think
Mm-hmm.
that if you don't have constant access to someone, I always have tried to get my mom to get an animal like a dog, but she just feels like at 93, she's
Uh,
afraid I'm going to trip over the dog, or
yeah.
I'm not going to be able to take care of myself and the dog. So I
Mm-hmm.
think, or what's going to happen with the dog if I pass away. So I think
Yeah.
animals are I think something simple that I've suggested to her. So if somebody's leaving, so let's
Mm-hmm.
say you're leaving for a couple of days. Let me
Mm-hmm.
take care of the dog for a couple of days. For 2 days,
Yeah.
you can do anything, and that
Mm-hmm.
saves you kennel fee, and that gives me time to play with Fido or whatever, and
Mm-hmm.
enjoy myself. And
Yeah.
so I think that my daughter will do that every now and then. Her dog is a little
Okay.
crazy, so she
So you also have a dog in your
yeah.
house?
I don't know if you just heard that noise. That was her.
Uh-huh.
She's a
Oh, okay.
Pomsky. She walked away, or I'd pick her up, but.
Oh, okay.
She is a Pomeranian and a Husky,
Oh,
so it looks like a little wolf puppy.
wow.
But
Okay.
her name is Aspen. Yeah,
Aspen. Okay.
yeah,
Yeah. Nice name. Yeah. I
yeah.
like the name. Yeah. So only one pet you have, like a dog?
Yeah, we're one pet family. We
Oh,
tried to
okay.
have more. We had two at one point, but
Mm-hmm.
that really the reason we got Aspen was because Sugar was getting older and slower, and so
Mm-hmm.
my son and my wife said my dog needs a puppy, so we got a puppy for Aspen, and that probably kept her alive. Case point, probably kept her alive for many more years than she would have lived just because she had a
Mm-hmm.
friend hanging out with her. Now, I
Yeah.
know it's getting close to the top of the hour, and I didn't know if you wanted to keep it
Yeah.
at an hour for your audience.
Like a like the ending thing.
Sure.
I'm in the last ending point. Like, what is your like future plan? Do you have any future plan you want to
Oh
share with
gosh, I
my
always have
audience?
future plans. So, I hope to travel.
Mm-hmm.
My favorite thing would be to go spend a month in a city.
Mm-hmm.
So whether that's going to Paris or going to Nepal and hanging out for a month at the base
Mm-hmm.
of camp of Mount Everest, or whether that would be going to I don't know, Brazil and hanging out for a month in some faraway village. I
Mm-hmm.
think that for us to learn culture, I think that's number one. I
Yeah.
think it's important to learn how people think.
Mm-hmm.
So, my future plans are one day when I retire, I always
Mm-hmm.
ask my office staff because they always ask me, when are you going to quit? And I say, when you tell me I'm not good at it anymore. So
Mhm.
when I'm not good at it anymore, or when it doesn't become fun anymore, I think, I've had a couple of my friends recently
Mhm.
retire, and I said, what led you to retire? I said, you're still a good surgeon, but it's just not as much fun as it used to be for me. And in medicine, you've got to be so focused. So I think
Yeah.
that if you're
Mhm.
distracted in any way, shape, or form because your neck hurts, or you're
Yeah.
distracted because you just don't have the stamina you did as a young person, I think that that's when it's time to go do something. But my kids don't have kids right now, so hopefully one day, like me and my grandfather, hopefully
Mhm.
I'll be able to go take them around and play with them, and
Mhm.
take them to little league baseball or coach the team or do whatever. So I think that what goes around comes around. So sooner or later, I
Mhm.
think I can't overemphasize, the people in Nepal know it better than anybody because I've seen it in action. Take care of your parents. A lot of the older people in Nepal live with the younger
Live
people.
with the, yeah, yeah. They,
So
we are like a family. Yeah.
your
Like
parents don't get
extended.
stuck somewhere. They come and live with you, and they
Mhm.
take care of the kids, and I think that's
Yeah.
important.
Yeah, that is our culture. Like we did not like here we are not separately, but now slowly it is happening like different. But yeah, the earlier the earlier when I was there, I live with my parents, my
Right?
grandparents. Yeah, we are together.
Well,
Sometimes.
I had that opportunity when I was maybe 16 or 17. My Armenian grandfather basically didn't have anywhere to stay, and he was getting older, and so he had six children, and the children said, well, we're just going to let him stay with each child for 2 to 3 months at a time. And he
Yeah.
came to Oklahoma, and he had Parkinson's. So Parkinson's disease, a lot of times they stay up real late at night. So
Mm-hmm.
it was perfect for me. I was a teenager. I would come home later in the evening when I was done with whatever, whether it was football or whatever, and he and I'd stay up and watch stupid old westerns like Gunsmoke or something. But he would tell his stories, and he would speak to me
Yeah.
in Russian or Armenian, and I never
Mm-hmm.
really quite got it. I tried, but I only wish I had learned the
Yeah.
languages. I think my Armenian grandfather and my Hungarian grandmother were really big. God bless America, and I don't know if in the early days in the 20s and the 30s when they came over, it was you were a foreigner, but you wanted to adopt a lot of the American talents and ways. And I think Americans have gotten smarter in trying to learn some of the culture from other peoples and
Yeah.
incorporate some of those things as well. But, I really wish one day that, I
Mm-hmm.
don't think I'll ever slow down.
Mm-hmm.
That's just not in my nature. I think I'll always be doing something. Sure, life will at some point in time, throw something at me that I can't do what I want to do. But even my mom, I look at my mom today, and she, I don't know if you know what mobile meals are. So mobile meals are, a lot of our churches will feed the elderly population. So if you're elderly and can't get out and you live at home alone, the churches will provide a couple meals a day plus a meal over the weekend, or sorry, two meals over the weekend. And
Mm-hmm.
so literally people from the church community will drive that to that person. So my mom writes little notes of inspiration
Oh,
that she puts in each one of the little meals that goes to these people. And I think, that makes
that
her
is,
happy. That
yeah,
makes
that's,
the
yeah.
message happy. The one I learned, gosh, I'm trying to think who was telling me it. They've got 100-year-old neighbor, and he takes everybody. They live in like a little cul-de-sac thing,
Mhm.
so he takes everybody's trash out on Monday. And so
Oh.
I don't remember. I don't know his name is. I think it would say it's Bob. Bob goes around on Sunday night and puts everybody's trash can out on the curb. And
Uh-huh.
then, Monday morning, after the trash has been taken, he walks around and puts everybody's trash can up. And everybody, gives Bob food and gives Bob,
Wow.
cookies and cream and whatever.
Yeah, that is cool, right? Yeah, that is also the thing that we learn from the older people, right? They
Right.
they they helping to the community, right? They
Of
like
course.
the community to be helped. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is so cool. So yeah, I think that is the like the I think we have like all an hour discussion
Yeah.
like
I think
talking,
it's
and it
awesome.
was really very nice talking with you. But one last thing like I
Sure.
want to say is like any feedback you want to give it if anyone wants to reach out to you anything uh,
Sure.
anyone, yeah.
Email is probably the easiest, stonenc@gmail.com, stonenc
Mm-hmm.
at gmail.com. So, from an international audience perspective, some of that will get filtered. So, keep trying. A lot of times I'm on the road. So,
Mm-hmm.
I just got back from Spain and France, and primarily, um, I don't know what happens. I don't know where it goes, but
Mhm.
somebody's like, "Did you get my email? Did you get my email?" And I'm like, "No, I didn't get your email for whatever reason." So I think that sometimes that just gets dropped in the universe
Mhm.
of travel. So if I don't answer it initially, try again and always introduce yourself. I'm always happy to try and talk to people. So I think email is kind of the connectivity that levels the playing field, makes the world flat.
Thank you so much for your time. Thank you for tuning in, everyone. If you feel helpful, please share to your friends, family, and like and comment the subscribe my YouTube channel. My YouTube channel name is Nepali Tech Mom. So yeah, this is the first episode. So there is some mistakes, and I'm learning from the mistakes. So stay tuned. I have a lot of things coming up, and thank you so much, Dr. Call, for your time.
Well, thank you, and I think you did an awesome job. So don't be
Mhm.
too hard on yourself. I think it'll be a good channel, and I wish you well in the future. And thank you for having me be the first one.
Mhm.